Today, let's talk about being gassy. Okay, a lot of people ask all the time, what do we mean by degassing? Do they have to do it? Is it necessary? Does it help? What's the point? How do you do it? All these questions. Let me just explain what we mean. When yeast start to work on a brew, they are producing gas in the form of CO2 and some others, and they produce ethyl alcohol, which is the stuff that you're brewing for. So those gases get into the liquid and they stay there. You'll see it as bubbles coming up. That's why airlocks work. That's why you want to have an airlock or some way to release the pressure, because otherwise, boom, when you're fermenting. So those gases are there from the entire fermentation process. They are also the waste products of the yeast. So if they're not removed, the yeast might be like, nope, we're done. We don't want to ferment anymore until you get rid of basically our poop, okay? The alcohol, you really can't remove that very easily, and you don't want to because you kind of want that. But the gas, we can remove and help the yeast along. Now that's during actual fermentation, just giving it a good swirl, leave that airlock in there, it helps it along. When fermentation's finished, if you really want to, you can stir. It's not necessarily the greatest way to go because you could be introducing some oxygen, which is a whole other thing. But in a pinch, if you had to, stir it up carefully, don't, splash it all over the place, and you can degas. You can use vacuum pumps and all sorts of different, tricks to do it. What we generally do, let it sit for a few weeks. That's usually all it takes. Now, that's in our temperature. The warmer your temperature, the quicker it'll degas on its own, the colder, the slower. Just like when we talk about carbonated beverages, if you put it in the fridge before you open it, it keeps the CO2 in, same principle, okay? By being warmer, the liquid's actually vibrating faster, making the molecules work like this, and boom, the gases come out faster. That's the scientific definition, right? Yeah. Anyway, so that's the basics of why we degas, is to help the yeast or to make a non-fizzy beverage at the end. People always ask, can I just bottle it as it is and have a fizzy beverage? Well, you can, but here's a caveat. If you do that, A, you're not really controlling how much carbonation you have, so it could go flat much faster than you think. And B, those gases are fermentation gases. They are old, they've been in there a while. If your yeast stressed at any point, they could have an off flavor. They could be producing off flavors in your brew. So I don't really like to do that. If you want to carbonate, we actually have a whole video on natural carbonation. We carbonate all the time. You're basically doing a mini fermentation, adding new gases after you get rid of the old ones that should be a little fresher and taste better. That's the theory. But yes, you could, in theory, bottle it with the gases still in there. It just wouldn't be my preference. The way we do it, as I started to say, is we just let them sit and the brews will automatically degas on their own. Many people will say, oh, I degas every day or all this kind of thing during fermentation. You can if you really want to. My worry is every time you take the cap off or take the lid off or get in there with any other item, you are potentially risking infection or oxidation. In the very early stages of a brew, oxidation is not as much of a worry, but infection could be. So keep that in mind. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying it's never a good idea. It's just something to keep in mind and be aware of. But basically, gas is bad for your yeast. They don't like it. They don't want to be around it. So if you can remove it carefully and safely without introducing any extra infection or without introducing too much oxygen, then you should probably try to. Or just let it sit. It'll all come out all on its own. That's pretty much all there is to degassing. But if you have any questions about degassing that I didn't cover in this very, 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 very quick video, leave a question in the comments and we'll be happy to help you out. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching and have a great day.